We'll call this meeting of the Craven County Board of Commissioners regular session for Monday, February the 21st, 2022 to order. Madam Clerk, if you will, please call the roll.
Commissioner Smith?
Here.
Commissioner Liner?
Here.
Commissioner Mark?
Here.
Commissioner McCabe?
Here.
Commissioner Mitchell?
Here.
Vice Chairman Bucher?
Here.
Chairman Jones?
Here. Ladies and gentlemen, if you will, please let's stand together as we salute and pledge to the American flag, and then, if you will, remain standing for the prayer by our county attorney. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good and gracious Father, you are the source of every good thing and the fount of every blessing. We praise you for your great care that you have for us, your children. As a source of all that is good and true, we ask you to inspire within our hearts a greater longing to pursue these ends and draw us ever closer to yourself. We ask you to send forth your blessing upon all those gathered here. May we receive your guidance and wisdom in accomplishing the tasks set before us. Protect us, keep our county and country safe from all harm, and may we pursue in freedom of heart the things that are yours now and forever. Amen.
Amen.
Good morning to each of you, and we welcome you to the Craven County Board of Commissioners meeting. This is your meeting, and for those that may be viewing online, we welcome you also. I would ask for those in attendance today, if you will, please, let's make sure our phones are on silence. We would appreciate it so we did not disrupt the business of the people. Commissioners, you have before you the agenda. It's been presented to you in a timely manner, posted, and as North Carolina General Statute requires on our website. Do you have any items that you desire to pull or to add to today's agenda?
Make a motion to approve the agenda as
Second. We have a motion and a second to approve the agenda as presented. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Thank you. Next item would be the consent agenda. You have there in the consent agenda the minutes of the February 7th, 2022 regular session, tax releases and refunds. You also have a CART's budget amendment for the CARES Act funded purchases. Are there any items that you desire to pull from the consent agenda? Here none, do I have a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion and a second to approve. Any discussion on the motion? Here none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Smith?
Yes.
Commissioner Liner?
Yes.
Commissioner Mark?
Yes.
Commissioner McCabe?
Yes.
Commissioner Mitchell?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Bucher?
Yes.
Chairman Jones?
Yes, thank you. Today we're honored to have with us Mr. Ben Ball, who represents Congressman Murphy, and he's going to come today and give us an update on things that are going on, and we appreciate you being with us today. Welcome.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Commissioners. It's good to see all of you, and good morning and greetings from Congressman Murphy. My name is Ben Ball. I am on the district staff and caseworker, and I am in the office in New Bern that you've provided for us through the Craven County Veteran Service Office. And as a caseworker, I work with individuals, constituents on services. It's appropriate that we're in the Veterans Service Office because that's our number one issue that we receive from veterans around the area. And I serve constituents, particularly in Craven, Pamlico, and Lenoir counties. So we have a lot of veterans, of course, in those areas. But we also deal with Social Security issues involving people trying to get their tax returns pulled out of the 11 million paper returns that have yet to be processed from 2020, and the other things that are going on in the federal bureaucracy that can be, at times, as I call it, soul-crushing to people. So we try to help them through that. That's our job. I'm not involved really in the political side. However, a lot of people come to us with political comments that we pass on to the D.C. office for response, and so they're welcome to. I passed out my card, which has my cell number on it, and you are welcome to come to us. We also do a lot with businesses, especially in this environment with a number of the SBA loans and PPP loans that people have engaged in and trying to find out their status, where they are. And then also with a number of communities, counties and cities that in our area that are seeking FEMA reimbursements, for example, or they're trying to get some grants passed through, and we get the congressman to write a letter in support. We look at a number of issues from Army Corps of Engineers to USDA to just everything, every agency that operates. Everything from the National Cemetery, which has been a kind of a hot button actually lately, to some other issues as well. So anytime that you have constituents that come to you and that there's a federal agency involved in the issue, feel free to call me or have them call me. That's our job. That's what we do. I spent a long time in broadcasting. I also was a pastor for 12 years with the Methodist Church, and so this is a good role for me because I'm used to always seeing people who are not happy. You probably feel the same way. People come to you upset about something, and we try to help them out, try to find the best way to serve them. It's not easy. It's the job of dealing with the bureaucracy is difficult. We make our inroads, but we appreciate that you have provided for us a great place to center ourselves in New Bern. The young lady that was working out of New Bern, you may have met Lauren in the past, she got married and moved to Onslow County, and so I was working out of my home in Carteret County, and so they asked me to come up here. For the last 6 weeks or so, I've been in New Bern and working there. So getting to know all of y'all and trying to, several of you I know I've had with Mr. McCabe, Councilman McCabe, we've worked together on the Carter Craven Electric capacity. I'm on the board of directors there. I've worked with Commissioner Booker and broadcasting before, and so some of you I've met over time, and I hope to get to know all of you over the time. So again, you have my card. Feel free to call me at any time. If you have any questions now, I'll be happy to entertain them.
Commissioner Mitchell.
Thank you. I have one talking about the National Cemetery. There has been some discussion about enlarging it so that it could accept inurnments from cremations.
Well, we actually just got a response from that. We have our liaison at D.C. We put together a number of letters that were sent to us by folks, and my parents are both interred there, so I have a stake in this too. And I thought the idea of a columbarium was actually a very good one personally, and I was in favor of that, but just as one voice there. But we got in touch, and we just got a response back from the area of the VA that handles the National Cemetery. In fact, the director of the National Cemetery said that they would not be expanding it because they believe that because the state cemetery in Jacksonville and the state cemetery in Goldsboro is within their parameters of a veteran who lives within 75 miles of a veteran cemetery, that they are being served. So they at this time don't have any desire to expand that national cemetery. We were not thrilled by that response because we felt like a columbarium was a really very logical idea there.
Dumb question, perhaps. Are they aware that different states have different criteria for who can be buried in state cemeteries?
Well, I'm sure they are, but they.
Because now I'm a transplant, and I'm not so certain of that.
Well, I know that my father-in-law was accepted to the state veteran cemetery, and but he's also a North Carolina native, but. I don't know those parameters beyond that, but I just know that that's their response.
Well, it might be worth going back to them because I have a lot of transplants in my district, and they are veterans, and they have moved here thinking that they could be buried in North Carolina just like they could have been buried in Tennessee or Georgia or Florida in those state cemeteries. And our North Carolina state cemetery guidance for veterans is far more restrictive.
Well, this brings up an interesting point that we often encounter, is the difference between state and federal issues, is that the VA may not have any say over that. So the VA may have their particular regulation, and so the state legislators are the ones to go to try to get that changed.
Right, and I understand that, but my point is that national VA that administers national cemeteries may be thinking that transplant veterans to North Carolina are being served. And since my father was a veteran, I'm here to tell you, no, they're not necessarily. And so what I'm trying to say is when they say that there are two state cemeteries that serve the veteran community, I'm disagreeing with them.
I will pass that along to our liaison to have them bring that up with the national secretary there. So,
Thank you.
okay, sure.
Commissioner Smith.
On the same subject, I have another issue of concern. In my opinion, the cemeteries in Jacksonville and the one in Goldsboro, I don't think is large enough to accommodate all the veterans that we expect to have in these areas. So since eventually they're going to have to expand anyway, I think that if you go ahead while you can expand in the New Bern area, it would be more sensible than to wait until those are filled, and you got to find a place for all of them.
Well, our office felt it was sensible to expand, but that was, the VA disagreed with that. But we will take that. I will take that on to our military liaison that was.
My husband is in the cemetery in New Bern, and I have other family members that I want in New Bern instead of Jacksonville.
All right. Well, we
Jacksonville. I have family members in Jacksonville. It's larger, but it's limited as far as I can see.
We were supportive of that, and in fact, if as a body, if you wanted to issue a letter of support for that very reason, we would certainly pass that along.
Okay.
That may have some influence.
All right.
Thank you. That's a good recommendation.
Is that something you're interested in, Commissioner Mitchell, Commissioner Smith?
I am.
Okay. Staff, would you please make note of that? All right. Commissioner Liner.
So I have a different subject here. If you could mind reaching out to the congressman. There's a House Bill 4601, Senate Bill 2405, dealing with veteran service officers. There's a program in there trying to get $250 million into the budget over 5 years for grants to come out and provide funding to our veteran service officers. You probably know that the state only provides our veteran service officers $2,000 a year, and the county and the other representatives pick up the other cost. So if you could take a look and see if he could get behind that and support that bill.
If you would send me an email on that, my email address is on that card that I gave you. Send me an email on that. I'd be happy to forward that to DC and have them respond to you.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions, comments?
These are exactly the kind of things we would love to hear from. So you feel free to contact us anytime.
Mr. Ball, I've heard you for years on the radio, and so it's good to put a face to the voice.
As I used to say then, I would hope you'd still listen, but now I don't have to worry about that.
No problem. The only question I would just like for you, I don't know, you may have said it, but what are your office hours here at the Veterans Office here?
Well, they vary because I'm also serving 2 other counties.
Okay.
So, but I generally am there from 9 to 5, but we generally, I post actually every week the time when we can see appointments, because often I'm in training. We do a lot of Zoom training, and so there are many times when I'm not available for people to come in. But we've had a number of, since I've been here in New Bern, we've had a lot of people come in for any variety of issues, including things like passports. We help people out with passports at the last minute, and that kind of thing that has to be, I can't really put off, so I'll break off some other meeting to help somebody out with that.
Well, it's been very accessible, I know, to us as a board. You know, citizens coming to us with things on the federal level, and Lauren, I mean, I'd have her contact information, and folks would reach out. So thank you for providing this to us, and
well, thank you in return, because again, the people at the VSO office have been very gracious in helping us kind of organize when people come in and want to see, and again, honoring what we have and posted for hours, and
Yes, sir.
we ask them to call and make an appointment.
Vice Chair.
Are you going to be doing this permanently, or are we going to get another
Well, right now it's me, so I don't know. I can't
But you don't know
foretell
what the
that.
long-term plan
I don't have any plans for changing it. So.
Well, you're always welcome here in this chamber, so anytime you want to come back, we'd love to
I
have you.
will be back.
And thank you for what you do, and please relay to the Congressman our heartfelt appreciation for his service.
I will. Thank you.
Thank you for being
Thank you
here.
all.
Thank you.
Next item this morning on the agenda is a hearing for excise tax refund. I'm going to ask if the county attorney will come forward. Good morning, sir.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, good morning.
Morning.
The board went through this process last year with an identical item. It was a different taxpayer and a different amount. Essentially what happened is local attorney Steve Bell handled a closing, and through an administrative error in his office, overpaid revenue stamps. And there's a statutory process to go through for him to request a refund, which he has done. The information is in your agenda packet. The board is required to hold a hearing, so Mr. Chairman, when the board is ready, you should open the hearing, and I doubt you'll have anybody here to speak on the matter. Mr. Bell is not present. He's going to let his correspondence speak for itself, and then close the hearing just as you would do for a regular public hearing, and then the board can take action on the matter.
Okay. Commissioners, you've heard the direction from the county attorney. That is that we would need a motion and a second to open the hearing.
I so move.
All right, we have a motion and a second to open the excise tax refund hearing. Any discussion on the motion? Hear none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we now stand in the hearing. Any citizen desiring to speak? Give one more opportunity. Anybody desire to speak? All right, hearing none, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion to close the public hearing? Hear none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we're now back to you, Mr. County Attorney.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. At this time, the board should take action to grant the request or deny the request. It is my opinion that the request is in order, and the board should consider granting it.
Okay,
I move that we grant this request.
Make a motion to accept the error.
okay. You take Commissioner Mitchell, Commissioner Mark, you've had the motion and a second to refund the $1,800 for the overage pay and revenue stamps. And this would be to the attorney, Mr. Bell, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
As I understand it, it came out of the client's funds. He has already reimbursed his
Okay.
client, so it's his money, if you
His
will.
money, okay. All right, you've heard the motion and second. Any discussion on the motion? Hear none, Madam Clerk, if you will, please call the roll.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Liner,
Yes.
Commissioner Mark,
Yes.
Commissioner McCabe,
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Booker,
Yes.
Chairman Jones.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. All right, item 4 is the Trillium presentation. We're honored to have with us this morning Mr. Dave Peterson, the Senior Regional Director. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Thank you, Chairman, for having me today. My name is Dave Peterson. I'm the Senior Regional Director at Trillium Health Resources. And as you know, many of you, I've been doing this in front of you all for 8 or 9 years, going close on 10. So pleasure being here with you this morning. I first want to thank Commissioner Liner, who also serves on our Regional Advisory Board, along with Ruthie Sheets, who's an attorney here in town. Been very helpful with that. I also want to just recognize 2 folks, Sean Kenny, who we hired about 2.5 years ago. He is our head of DSS at Trillium because of all the DSS issues that have been happening over the years. We cover 28 counties. 27 counties were happy that we got Sean because we stole him from Pitt County. But that being said, Pitt County is now relieved that they have someone over on our side knowing what they talk about in DSS. So he's worked quite a bit with Jeff at DSS, and actually is going over there right after this meeting to spend a couple hours over in DSS, which he does with a lot of the DSSs. Also, Susan Hall in the audience is our system of care coordinator that covers Craven County. So,
Welcome.
next slide, please. So every year we go through what our mission is, which is transforming lives and building community well-being through partnership and proven solutions. I'm going to hit on who we are. The big topic, as I started in 2018 talking with you all about, is the Medicaid transformation changes. With that being said, that's causing us to have some organizational changes. And then at the very end, we will go over some Craven County data. Next slide, please. So who we are in numbers, we're 28 counties. Last year when I was in front of you, we were 26 counties. We added Halifax County in December and Bladen County February 1st. They chose to come to Trillium to join us. Total population about 1.5 million. Right now we have about 244 Medicaid eligible individuals that we serve, and it's been about 58,000 of those individuals that have mild to severe mental health needs. And I put the percentages in there. About 70% of those individuals have a primary diagnosis of mental health. About 20% have a primary diagnosis of substance use disorder, or SUD, and about 10% with intellectual and developmental disabilities. We contract with about a little over 500 provider agencies to do those services. Our budget is about almost 476 million spent on services. Smallest county is Terrell County, and largest county is New Hanover, which is about 12,000 square miles. Next, please. This is our map. And I always want to point out this map because the interesting part about it is the darker green up in the north has 11 counties, but if you look at that total population, it's only about 250,000 people. In the central, which Craven County is in, Nash going all the way out to Dare, it's about twice the size with 500,000 people with two less counties. And then in the southern region, because of Jacksonville and Wilmington, that population is 700 and almost 800,000, and it's only 8 counties down there. So I just wanted to make sure folks were aware of the regions that we serve and the numbers and folks in those regions. Next slide, please. So in 2018, I came to you. 2019, I came to you. 2020, I came to you telling you what the state was moving towards, which were called standard plans. It happened in July of this year. These 5 private insurance companies for Medicaid individuals, which Trillium served low to moderate risk. We also serve high-risk individuals. These 5 agencies, and a lot of you have heard of these, Blue Cross everybody knows about, they now manage the Medicaid individuals for low to moderate risk, which was about 70 to 75% of the people that we served. They have now moved over to the private insurance companies for behavioral health issues. Okay? Like I said, they started July 1. There's been a lot of conversation and almost weekly conversations about what some of the mistakes were in that and what some of the benefits were in that. And so the state is working through that with those private insurance companies. And I'll give one example. There's criteria to have a mild or moderate severe mental health issue, and then there's criteria for high-end issues. And an individual may one day have really severe issues and they get treated, and then they can move down to a lower level of care, which is always good. But what that means is that individual then moves from Trillium over to one of these insurance companies. Or vice versa. If an individual has low to moderate issues and then they get hospitalized for psychiatric issues, they'll come over to us. So the transfer going on between these private insurance companies and the managed care organizations like Trillium is still being worked through on a case-by-case scenario. Okay? Next slide.
I have a question.
Yes.
These insurance companies versus, I'm not quite understanding, I'm relatively new here.
Yep.
Trillium and the insurance companies, do the insurance company do anything other than provide funds for medicines, that kind of thing? Or they are they involved in the actual providing service?
Very good question. No, they are not involved in the providing of the service, similar to how we are not involved in the providing of services. That's why we contract out with about 500 agencies.
If you contract out and they're taken away from you, are the insurance companies contracting out as well?
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. A majority of the agencies that we contract out with, and most of you probably are familiar with Easter Seals in New Bern here, okay? Easter Seals does contract with those 5 insurance companies also, okay? So they have low to moderate risk individuals, but they also have high risk individuals too. Good question. So the state did award, so the tailored plan, I talked about standard plan. Tailored plan was a term that I started in 2018 with y'all. We were one of the 7 that got awarded. Trillium did get awarded to become a tailored plan. And I think I said last year to y'all, you know those paper boxes that you have next to your printer? You know, those that hold all your packages? Our package, our application package to the state was 21 boxes. Okay? That's how big the application was that we had to submit to the state. All right? To become a tailored plan. One of the agencies in the state, Cardinal Innovations, they decided to merge with another managed care organization called VIA. So there was 7 of us, and they merged, and that's why Halifax County joined us. That was one of Cardinal's, and they said we'd prefer coming to Trillium instead of going to VIA. So they joined us in December. Bladen County, like I said, joined us on February 1st. The original go-live date was July 1 of 2022, but the state has pushed that back to December 1st now of 2022. Next slide, please. So this is our total state map, and as you can see, the very light green is all of Trillium. So you can see our total coverage compared to the other parts of the state that have that are going to become tailored plans. All right. We have a readiness review. It says on here late summer. We got last week that date. The readiness review to become a tailored plan is going to be July 12th and 13th. And then we become, like we do today, we manage the severe behavioral health, substance use, and developmental disabilities like we do today. But in addition to managing them like we do today, we just manage their mental health today. But if they have a physical health issue, December 1, we're now going to be managing their primary care doctors and pharmacies and that sort of thing. So when I talked with you about 70 to 75% of the individuals going over to the insurance companies, everybody says, okay, then you're going to be reducing staff, aren't you? Because they're all going over there. Well, now we have to take the whole person, not just their mental health issue. Now we have to hire nurses, and we have to contract with every single pharmacy and doctor's office that does primary care work. So it's like 2,000 some odd pharmacies that we have to contract with. So if you just think about that lift in itself, it's more than 500 that we have right now contract-wise. Okay? And it says on here about contracting with primary care offices. And I want to be specific about that. Primary care offices that deal with individuals with Medicaid. Your primary care office doctor may or may not serve Medicaid individuals. All right? Many of them do, though. Right. Next slide, please. So I think I hit on all of those things. Yes. Next slide. So for many years, many of you may have known Lisa Wainwright. She was our CEO. She is retired February 1. Joy Futrell, who has also been with us about 35 years, has become our new CEO. She was our CFO before she became our CEO. Richard Leisner, some of you may have known him. He was in New Bern for years with his practice. He moved to a new job, and so Ms. Goodman is our new general counsel. Sue Ann Forrest, we just hired back in December as our Director of Government Relations. And in this process, there's been movement of staff because we have to have staff that are going to be covering the whole person. So internally, there's some changes that we've been making with staff. Next slide, please. Part of the requirement to become a tailored plan in the contract with the state, we have to have 4 different call lines now instead of just 1. So we have to have a call line for all of our pharmacies. We have to have a call line for just our provider agencies that we contract with. We have to have a nurse line now. And what we have currently is for any members that want to call in. We also have the business line. So if any of you want to contact me, it's on my business line, but I also feel free to give my cell phone out anytime that folks need me. Care management, who used to just serve the individuals for their mental health or developmental disability or substance abuse. Well, the care management staff are going to have to learn the physical health side of the individual too. And that means either training those staff that can learn that, or getting new staff in that know the whole person. We have also established about 2 years ago now, and I didn't give it to you last year because it was still under development, but we do have a disaster response unit. And at our last regional board meeting, the commissioners in the board meeting said, please put that in your presentation to all of the county commissioners, because they wanted to know how we were now managing disaster response. We're the only managed care organization in the state that has full-time people working on disaster response year-round. One of their jobs is to go out and meet with emergency management systems in each county to see what they're doing. But we also have a plan in place when preparing for hurricanes coming in, preparing for any disasters. And as many of you saw that plane crash in Carteret County, we had our disaster response folks go down there, especially going to the schools. And so we had folks and agencies doing work in the schools to kind of work through the kids' issues as they have to say goodbye to some close friends. So our disaster response unit does a variety of things to making sure that we're, one, prepared primarily for hurricanes, but any other disasters that come through. Next slide. So like we've been doing for about 7 years now, we're continuing to give out Naloxone Kits, and Jack is very aware. They come into Jack's office, and then Jack distributes them according to, I think, law enforcement, DSS.
Libraries.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, so that was really unique. And not many counties have thought of that one either. So we appreciate that flexibility, because everybody thinks naloxone kits, which prevents overdoses, just need to go to law enforcement. Well, overdoses can happen anywhere. And so wherever the county wants to put them, we want to try to support that. We do have mobile clinics that are starting to come into multiple counties, and they're going to be doing some mental health and substance abuse services. One of the other big parts of our contract with the state as we become a tailored plan is we have to have a tribal engagement strategy. And we have 4 tribes that are in our 28 counties that I'll say we haven't engaged much with in previous years. And now that is one of my projects, and it's been really interesting to learn about that too. So we're doing a lot more about that. Family Navigators is part of the contract too with the state. So when December 1 comes around, we're going to be having Family Navigators work side by side with our system of care staff. And these are people with lived experience, parents that have kids that have been in the system. Okay, so folks with lived experience can really help support us and support the families on getting back into any of the regular routines that they need to get into. We're having co-responder pilots, and those are pilots where we have an agency with mental health licensed clinicians either working in the sheriff's departments or the DSSs and getting in the cars or following the sheriff to the scene of an issue where there could potentially be a mental health issue. So that's that co-responder that you have someone licensed going out to the homes. CFAC is a Consumer Family Advisory Committee. That's every managed care organization has that. We're now adding traumatic brain injury as one of the disability groups instead of the 3 mental health, developmental disabilities, and substance abuse. The state is adding traumatic brain injury, so we're adding that to our population of serving. The Healing Place, which has been and I know Commissioner Mark, you probably have heard quite a bit about that, and Jack has too. The Healing Place in New Hanover County is, I think, in the fall, going to be opening up, and it's a 200-bed facility that 100 beds for men and 100 beds for women for substance abuse. It's very similar to the Healing Transitions facility in Raleigh. Okay. And then lastly, I just want to mention in Craven County, we do have a project called Partners for Excellence, which is working with the Department of Social Services in Craven County and Pitt County. Those are the only 2 that we're doing it in, that trying to make sure that we're really assessing kids early on to getting the appropriate types of care and services. And then last slide. So every year I give you the total number of individuals being served. So last year, 4,196 Craven County residents were served. Those with primary mental health diagnosis was 3,279. Those with substance use, 935. And those with intellectual and developmental disabilities was 514. And like I say every year, those numbers never add up because individuals do have dual diagnosis. Now, I'm going to plant the seed. The numbers for next year, because I do plan on being here next year, I hope, are going to look a little different because these numbers are from July 1, 2020 to June 30th, 2021. And if you think about what happened July 1 of this year, all those private insurance companies started serving a lot of those individuals. So next year, our numbers are going to look a little different. Okay? And I would be happy to answer any questions.
Commissioner Smith.
Is the total a number, the number served, or can it be one person served more than one time? Do you count each time a person is served, or do you count the individual as one?
Good question. We just count the individual.
Okay.
All right, Commissioner Liner.
Dave, thanks for being here. I think we've all heard last year what was going on. Dave has still got one hell of a job trying to get this together and everything. This thing is still changing daily, regardless of what's going on. The state is still coming down and changing it. Dave, I got about 5 questions here I want to bring up. We've been talking at the regional board and stuff, and it's been brought up at this board and some comments being made. And if you don't have the answers, that's fine, but I'll send them to you in an email. And you
Great, thank you.
address them to me
Yep.
later and everything else. One is, how can we start looking better or providing treatment to our incarcerated population?
So let me plant one seed with you. There's a program called the Stepping Up Initiative. It is a national, I don't want to call it a program, but and I'm really excited that you even asked that question, because we have some counties that are, and if you look up Stepping Up, and I'll send you the information on it, every county deals with it differently according to what the county needs. But it's a jail diversion, a jail treatment, and an aftercare type of system. And depending on what the county wants, and there's only two parties, and I've seen this in Alamance County, in Pitt County, and up in the 5-county area, Vance, Franklin, Warren, Halifax area. They have a very strong Stepping Up initiative, but people may call it something other than that. And some of them deal with, and I'll just give an example. In Pitt County, there was a room that was fairly large, and they opened up that room and put 16 beds in that room instead of the individuals being behind the individual cell. So they felt a little bit more open, and there was more programs for them to receive if they made the eligibility to be safe in a larger space. So you had job opportunity training, you had faith community coming in, you had interview with substance abuse services going on, and that sort of thing. So every county can develop it on their own, and there, like I said, there's two parties that have to drive that: county commissioners and law enforcement. And I've seen that it's tried to work in other counties, but if those two parties aren't supportive of that, it doesn't work.
Well, can we get support and leadership starting if we agree to do it from Trillium, coming through?
Yeah, there's a training that the Stepping Up Initiative does, and it's an excellent training. I went through it with Pitt County, their law enforcement and their commissioners over there. This was probably about 5-6 years ago. Yes, we can help with that. So I'm going to make sure I get you information on Stepping Up.
Next one, how can we assist individuals who have relatives going through mental health crisis in order to prevent them from law enforcement or DSS involvement through guardianship? How can we step in with Trillium? How does Trillium step in?
So one of the things that I would encourage, so we have what's called mobile crisis, all right? And if law enforcement knows and breathes mobile crisis, and I've seen this in other counties where they have the RAC cards for Integrated Family Services that does mobile crisis. So when they're going out on a call and they know that they're going to a home with potentially some mental health issues, that they can go into the home, the Integrated Family Services can go into the home, de-escalate the individual so no handcuffs even happen. All right, so that's one prevention that can occur. Guardianship, let me look into that one, because that is a different issue. You're talking about trying to prevent social services having to take over guardianship?
Right.
Yeah.
Next, and we've been talking about this at the board meetings, and you brought it up. We've had some issues on this. What are we going to do to enhance the number of group homes for adults who serve those with mental illnesses and therapeutical options for children with mental illness?
Yeah, so we, unfortunately, we did have two. Yes, we did, looking at Sean, because these were DSS only kids that could come into those homes. The provider opted to close down. And I'll say this, and I'm going to speak from experience. I worked probably 5 to 8 years right out of college working in group homes. And you have to be wired a certain way If you do other services, if you do outpatient mental health where the people come to your office, or if you work in inpatient hospitalization where there's a lot of security around, that's totally different than working in a group home. And there's not many individuals, Sean and I are one of them, that have worked in residential services that know how to manage kids like that. It is one of the most difficult things. So, with that being said, I'm going to ask Sean, are we trying to recruit another? Is it all right for Sean to say?
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner. And yes, sir, we have, for example, right now, we have signed a contract for 2 crisis rescue homes for DSS involved youth. One is in the licensing stage, and one is in the inspection stage, 2 both open. We have contracted for 2 level 3 group homes for DSS impacted youth. One is open in Pitt County, one will be open in New Hanover County. We have contracted for 2 level 2 group homes for youth. Both will be located in Columbus County. They are both in the licensing stage. You brought up also places for adults. Let me stay on kids for just 1 second, particularly when I speak, it's just DSS, okay? But a big part of my job is doing trainings for DSS, for your local people, about how services can get in place earlier so residential settings aren't necessary down the road. So we put a heavy emphasis upon that through like our co-responder program. Now coming to adults, same thing. I've been educating recently Craven DSS. I've been meeting with them weekly for about the past month, just the adult folks, about the Olmstead settlement and how that has impacted residential settings for adults in the state of North Carolina. Many residential settings for adults are managed outside of the MCO by rule. So some things we could use your help on as a governing body are 2 things. One, if we could get your support to help change some administrative rules with regard to licensing, we could expand our capacity quite a bit. And then 2, with regard to adult, if we could get an administrative rule change at the state level that would allow us to do like walkthroughs while a home is being licensed, that could help set them up earlier. Right now, we can do that if it is a home for one individual with an IDD need. These rules have not changed in forever.
They've been around a long time. So
The reason why we know that is the last time they changed, Lisa Wainwright wrote the rules.
way back at the state. But I think thank you, Sean. I think your question is, how can we get more of these? The 2 that shut down, we're now opening up 4. And that is one of those areas, I will say, should reduce hospitalizations, should reduce some of the long-term residential treatment facilities, like psychiatric residential treatment facilities, and those group homes potentially could help with that.
Dave, isn't one of the problems with the group homes was the residents, the neighborhoods that they were, that people didn't want them there?
Yeah, well, I'll say, the NIMBYism is all over the place. It's interesting, states and then counties and cities and towns' perception of group homes. The national model basically says you can build a group home right next to one.
Right.
But sometimes some states say no, sometimes some counties say no, some towns say no to that. That is one of the variables in there. I will say, though, group homes are 24/7, 365, and you have to have staff in there, all 3 shifts, or where I started, we did 4 days on and then 3 days off type of thing. So it varies on how those are operated. Next question, Commissioner.
I'll send them to you. We got a
Okay.
schedule today. I'll send the rest of them to you.
All right, other questions from the board? Jack, do you have any
No, I appreciate the working relationship I have with Dave and his team. It's great. I appreciate having Dave's cell phone number a lot of the times to call him when
Yes.
something comes in the office we can't handle. And I would encourage commissioners, as you get those calls, Dave's a great resource to have
Yes.
contact.
Please do, yes.
Only thing I will say, Commissioners, we receive our monthly memo from Mr. Merritt through the county manager. And I hope you're reading those and have been especially for the last 6 months. DSS is really challenged with a lot of problems. And they're understaffed, number one. Number two, the responsibilities that have been put on them. And you brought some of those to the forefront today, the lack of places to send these citizens, whether they're adults or they're children. It's very challenging, and it's a problem that has got to be addressed, and it's got to be addressed soon. We're not trying to say it's all got to be you. We have a responsibility too, but the state of North Carolina's got a big responsibility in this too. And so I would encourage you to be mindful of this. I think as we go into budget this year, there's going to probably have to be some discussions of some things we might have to do to step up to the plate if some things do not change between now and budget time to help Jeff. Anyway, I could go on, but the challenges that we have. Any more questions for Mr. Peterson? Yes.
David, if you could send those 2 recommendations for changes in Raleigh, send them down here to us so we can take a look at.
Yes, we can do that.
That's a great idea.
Thank you for coming. Thank you both for your attendance today and for what you do.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Chairman.
it.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you. All right, next we have on the agenda Social Services Budget Amendment, Share the Warmth Program. Mr. Jeffrey Merritt. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Commissioners. We have,
Yeah, speaking of social services.
speaking of social services, Chairman, County Commissioners, County Manager, thanks for having me. We're bringing before you, we received another allocation from one of our energy programs. This is for Piedmont Natural Gas Share the Warmth. This is one of a smaller program that we run throughout the year. It assists individuals in heating crises. Of course, they target low income Piedmont Natural Gas customers in a heating-related crisis, so there are some more stricter eligibility rules there. Piedmont Natural Gas operates in 16 counties, so those 16 counties get these funds based from Piedmont Natural Gas customers, employees, and corporate donations. So there's a limit of $200 per year that can be spent on per eligible household, and we do screen for these benefits when individuals come in for other benefits as well to see if they're duly eligible and there's a need. So we would be asked that this money be allocated to the budget so we can continue to determine eligibility and provide those funds as needed.
So moved.
All right, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion on the motion? And the motion is for budget amendment in the amount of $11,138. Here, no further discussion. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Smith?
Yes.
Commissioner Liner? Commissioner Mark?
Commissioner Mark.
No.
Commissioner McCabe?
Yes.
Commissioner Mitchell?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Booker?
Yes.
Chairman Jones?
Yes. Jeff, while you're here, I want to ask you a question, if you can. In the memo you sent to the county manager and it was shared with the Board of Commissioners, there was a statement made in here. Craven County DSS is one of only 2 county social services departments appointed as guardians of the estate, and this is for adults.
Right.
That require social workers to perform functions, and the functions you listed above that. Trying to find out the financial documentations and how much money, et cetera, et cetera. I reckon my bottom line question, I could read a lot more there.
Sure.
But why are we, well, let me ask it this way. Out of the other however many DSSs there are in the state of North Carolina,
Right.
what are they doing? What's different that we are separate?
Well, we're trying to work with the clerk on that. The clerk appoints guardians of the person, the estate, and general guardianship. So, with us as a disinterested public guardian statute, we can take on those responsibilities. I can't really speak for how other counties do it because I don't really know. But, when you do have those guardian of the state, it does provide a lot of taxing work on the social workers. It almost turns them into an accountant where they're having to manage people's finances and account for every penny that's spent throughout the year, and then we have to turn that back. The clerk does help us with some of those, but they can't, they're in a conflict. They can't appoint us and then do it when they have to go over the reports. Do you see what I'm saying? It'd almost be like someone write the check and then cashing it. Internal controls, trying to speak from a finance standpoint. So we're trying to work on that. Maybe looking and seeing what some other options are.
County Manager.
I recognize that statement as well, and I told Mr. Merritt that there's 99 counties that are finding another way to do it. It doesn't put this entire burden upon DSS because they have a lot of other burdens, as you noted earlier in your comments after the Trillium presentation. I've asked Mr. Merritt if, sometime he and I could go and speak with the current clerk and try to understand a little bit more about how we can become the 100th county that does it a different way.
Yeah. And that's something that, it's just been something that's happened for some time. So maybe just revisiting it and seeing what other options are. So.
Not trying to take something away from you that you want to do, but if it relieves, some of your workload, and we can assist you in that, however it may be. I mean, the county manager's outlined a plan, but if it needs to come back to this board, I think we're all willing to do whatever we can. Commissioner Liner?
Sorry I had to step out, Chairman. I know you're talking about the same issue that I had here, but hearing what you had to say, Jeff, I think this is costing us money. This is costing us fun, even just by reading what you had here, this one individual. I'm sure it costs quite a bit of money.
Yeah,
to take care of it.
Our guardianship population, you've seen the numbers, they continue to grow, and there's very little to, if any, state dollars there.
Right.
So the director and I did some work trying to see what we could do to roll guardians in Medicaid transformation to at least try to have those who make just above being Medicaid eligible to give them some type of service. And we're running into some issues there. I continue to talk to DHB, but the county has to pick up the tab.
I think that's what we need before leadership goes over in that. We need a cost to show them of what it's costing the citizens of this, solely based on an individual's desires to do something that 99% of the other counties are not doing. So I think we need to have that figures and everything else involved and the number involved. Not saying we want to get out of the business, but I was taken back by this by reading it because I've been on the board for 8 years and this is the first time. I thought it was a state statute that stated that we had to take them.
Well, but guardianship of the person we do, there can be, you can appoint different people guardian of the state. There is, attorneys appointed guardian of the state in the county now. It's just dependent upon how much money that they have. So,
Commissioner, Commissioner Mitchell.
Yeah, I'm following up on the other things, but I'd like to roll it a little bit faster. If 99% of everybody else is doing it differently, and these people are better looked after at less cost to the taxpayers, I'd like to find out what it is sooner rather than later. So I'd like to set a bring back date on this one. Now, I don't want these people to fall through the cracks with it, but it sounds like we know there's another system of doing it, so let's move that forward.
Of course, we wouldn't let them fall through the cracks, Commissioner Mitchell. We continue to do that until we find a more, maybe another viable option.
Well, that's my concern, is that the viable option that the other 99% are doing is ensuring that they don't fall through the cracks. But I'd like to put a date on when we're going to have some other options.
We will, if you be okay, the county manager and I will definitely, we'll make it top priority this coming week to, to move this forward with Mr. Merritt.
We already had some discussions last week at our agency trying to reach out to some others to get some ideas about what their processes are. So, we're not starting from a blank sheet of paper.
Thank you.
I think the main thing I want to share, and I think I speak on behalf of the board and what the board members that I've talked to is, this is concerning to us. the load that you got on you as DSS director and also your staff. I mean, you've got a tremendous amount of responsibility here, probably more so than any prior DSS director we've ever had in this county. And I mean, I know you signed up for the job. You do the job, you know, to the best of your ability, as far as I can see. But you know, when you start talking about that, you know, you have 105 children in custody compared to 103 of the last report. I mean, then you talk about here as far as the amount of adults that you've got.
95, I think.
Okay, I mean, close to 100 there. I mean, that's a great responsibility, and that don't just happen 5 days a week. That's 7 days, as it was stated by Mr. Peterson. That's 7 days, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. And so, we just want you to know we're here to support you.
Thank you.
Okay.
And I just, commend the staff. I'm the director of the department, but a lot of the staff do a lot of the great work there. They're the ones that, will get up and take someone to a doctor's appointment at 5 o'clock in the morning for a surgery, or they're the ones that will work late nights too, who have to go in and see those horrific situations and find a solution for them to protect children. Are we perfect? No, but I think people don't get into this business trying to go in there and do a bad job. It's pretty complex situations, and you take the information that you have at the time and you try to make the best decision that you can move forward with. So,
Mr. Chairman, can I comment? And I think Mr. Merritt says the most important thing there. These are some of the most complicated cases that the DSS deals with, particularly the adult and the children guardianship cases. I mean, and Jeff and I talk a lot about it, probably a lot of things we wouldn't share in this room, but he's making some important decisions about individuals' lives and livelihood every day in the middle of the night, Sunday morning. So it's a big burden, and I think anything we can do to help Jeff with this is a blessing to him and his staff.
yeah.
So.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, buddy. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Have a good day. All right, Commissioners, next is Finance. We have a budget amendment. Mr. Craig Warren, good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir. I have one item on the agenda for you this morning. That's a budget amendment for the reimbursement of legal fees to Cove City Fire Department Incorporated. At the request of County Commissioners, Cove City Fire and Rescue Incorporated was asked to split its fire and rescue squad operations from a single nonprofit corporation into two nonprofit corporations. The request was made to help Cove City Fire better qualify for some of the Department of Insurance grants that they had not been qualifying before. Professional legal services were retained by the fire department, and as a result, they incurred legal expenses totaling $11,375. The legal entity formerly known as Craven, Cove City Fire and Rescue is now known as Cove City Fire Department and Cove City EMS. Cove City Fire Department would like to request a reimbursement of these legal fees from the fund balance of the Township Number 3 Fire District Fund.
Mr.
right.
Chairman, can I
sir.
Craig, I would help him with this one since I did a little bit of the legwork outside of the BA. This board over the years has seen this particular fire department be ineligible for grants that all the other departments get. Part of the discussion, at least the last time they came, but probably several times before that, was at what point are you going to control your own destiny here and do this action so you can now be eligible? And that's up to a $30,000 grant every year that they could be eligible for now. Mr. Kite, most recently, because of some of the way the state budget was calculated, some of the ways they're using the ARP money, there's additional grant monies this year in particular they would be eligible for. So I think by using dollars on our books that are technically from the fire tax district, it allows for them to achieve this goal. Honestly, $11,000 probably will be made up in year one for the department. They're going to go out, I'm sure, and apply for any grants they have available now. So I just wanted to give you that caveat to move forward.
All right.
So within the townships, the fire district fund, they ended last year with $89,530 in total fund balance. And if we're using the, the revenue splits between the three fire districts that are in that township, Cove City, his amount is $30,440.
Mr. Chairman, was the Cove City Fire and Rescue, was they the only ones in the county that were recognized that way?
To my knowledge, they are the only fire and rescue units that are in the county that were operating under one corporate name.
If you remember, Commissioner Mark, years ago, when the board set the policy for some of the fire departments that had the higher tax rates, then we started matching the funds. You know, Cove City Fire Department was a part of that. And they were not eligible because when they put in their revenue amounts to the state for the matching funds.
I understood that.
Yeah.
My thing was, I was just wondering if there were any others in the county that were like that, but they're not.
No, sir.
I'm not aware of it.
No, sir, there's no other departments that are EMS and fire joint.
Commissioner Lyon.
Well, it's been 3 years since we told them we wasn't going to give them any more money. And I think they've stepped up to the plate, even though it's taken this long to do it and everything else. So I'd like to make a motion we approve.
Second.
All right, we have the motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Hear none. This is for a budget amendment in the amount of $11,375. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Smith?
Yes.
Commissioner Liner?
Yes.
Commissioner Mark?
Yes.
Commissioner McCabe?
Yes.
Commissioner Mitchell?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Booker?
Yes.
Chairman Jones?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next, Commissioners, we have appointments. Under pending, we have the Community Child Protection Team, the Craven Pamlico Regional Library, and the Craven Aging Planning Board. We will be discussing some of these today in our work session, but are there any nominations for any at this time?
Yes, please. I would like, for the C1A board, I would like to nominate Jeff Medlin.
Okay, under current there, you have the nomination of Mr. Jeffrey Lee Medlin for the C1A board. Are there any other nominations? Hear none, he will be accepted by acclamation. All right, thank you. Going back up to the top, we have the Farmers Market Board. You have a term of expiring of Mr. Heath. You have an applicant from Ms. Pam Hawkins, who serves in the Soil and Water.
Mr. Chairman, I would recommend Pam
Okay.
Hawkins be reappointed. I'm not sure, but I think Donald Heath might have passed away.
No, he's still alive, but he did not desire to serve again. So, but yes. All right, thank you for the nomination. Are there any other nominations? Hear none, Ms. Hawkins will be accepted by acclamation. All right, next would be the Craven County Board of Adjustments. You have there 3 names of Mark Gatlin, Lee K. Allen, and Bud Stilley. The clerk has noted no feedback. County Manager.
Yes, sir. This board, as you're aware, meets very infrequently. It's only when there's a challenge in the zoning areas that we have around the airport and around the base. I would highly recommend reappointing these 3 individuals since they've been through the training that takes place. And I know 2 of them have served, a good bit of time, 9 years. But I think because of their training and experience and the limited pool of potential clients or citizens that could serve on this board, this would be a good decision.
All right.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to hold on Lee K. Allen. I haven't made him meet up with him, so.
Okay.
Let's talk with him.
All right.
Yes, sir. And I understand what County Manager is saying, but if we have decided to uphold the 10-year rule on other boards, I think we have to carry that through all boards. I don't think we can cherry pick.
There's one difference here, and that is my understanding, I appointed Mark Gatlin 3 years ago. I don't think they've met in the last 3 years.
They have not. They only meet when there's an issue to meet.
Well, I agree with you in principle, but when somebody's been appointed and gone through training and never met, because there's not been an issue come up.
Well,
I had a tough time finding somebody in the first place to serve on that board. So I'm not disagreeing with you, but I am saying this board may be different than all the other boards.
I don't disagree with you. I even agree with you on this point. But what I'm trying to say is the next time somebody comes forward on a different board and says, yes, but he or she is the greatest, and they've been trained and they're familiar with all the issues, it is a very slippery slope, and I'm very uncomfortable going down with it, and it could look inappropriately discriminatory.
Commissioner Smith, you had a comment?
Did I understand you to say that, I'm speaking to Commissioner Mitchell.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you say that we agreed that a person would serve 10 years?
That's correct.
Yes,
Didn't
that's
you, did you not say 3 years? The person that's on the board served
The
only
one
3
I appointed 3 years ago.
Right.
That's not the one, she's talking about the other
The other two.
who have already completed 9 years.
Okay.
They still have another year to go.
Oh, yeah,
So-
they got one more year.
So Mr. Gatlin, he would be eligible for reappointment.
Yes.
Okay, has he,
I don't know, I haven't spoken to
do
him.
you think he would want to serve?
See, that's the point. My comment, no feedback, is I don't even know that they want to be reappointed.
Okay, all right,
I can't.
If I can, it
I
can,
don't know either.
Somebody has
I-
spoken to them.
so let me just clarify. These individuals more than likely will never meet. Okay? It's one of the challenges we've had since I've been here. This board does not meet regularly except for the required training that they have to have, and it takes about 3 hours to do that training. It is a very small area that you can collect people to serve on this board. It has to be in the zoning area that you have around the New Bern EWN Airport and along the base, but only around the base that's not in Havelock that has the zoning for the county, which is on Commissioner McCabe's side. It is a huge challenge to find individuals to serve here. In your bylaws, you have it's a 10 years, or if it does detriment to the board, you can continue the service. I understand Commissioner Mitchell's point, but I think you're going to see if you don't reappoint these two individuals, you're going to have 2 vacancies. And if there was a chance this board had to meet, which by the time you get to a Board of Adjustment, you've got a time clock ticking. So my recommendation is maybe to table this. We're going to have discussion in the
Let's table
bylaws later. I would let these individuals continue to serve until you can find some replacements. That would be my recommendation to you today, if you choose to replace those 2.
could we take no action on it at this time? I think we're going to have some discussion, as you said, in our work session. We may come back to this one, and it may give us the opportunity between now and then, somebody might be able to reach out to Mr. Gatlin at least, just to see if he's interested.
Mr. Chairman,
Let me ask one, excuse me, go ahead.
Jack, you mentioned that if it was detrimental on one individual, but I think that was only for an extension of 1 year, wasn't it?
You actually can't extend for 1 year. Based on this board, it's the term that's prescribed by the general statutes.
All right, yeah, Vice Chair.
Madam Clerk, none of the 3 have said, I want to continue serving, correct?
That's correct. I reached
Okay.
out to
Good.
Don Baumgardner, Chad Strawn several weeks ago, and yeah.
Okay,
Do you have Mark's phone number?
sorry.
Do you have Mark's phone number?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, we're going to defer this to our work session. We'll come back. All right, Juvenile Crime Prevention Council, you have there Ms. McCarthy. Her term is ending, aging out of the high school representative seat. I reckon who determines that as far as the high school applicant?
Well, Jennifer Dacey will, because she knows the
Okay.
student is aging out, she will seek through the school system.
Okay, so that one's going to be deferred then.
That one's going to be left empty until they find
Okay.
somebody, correct.
All right, then you have the applicant of Sharon Logan, who seeks to fill the Faith Community Representative seat. You do have an application. What's the desire of the board?
I nominate Ms. Logan.
Okay, we have the nomination. Any other nominations? Hearing none, she will be accepted by acclamation. All right. Then you have the Fire Tax Commissioner. We all are saddened to hear about Mr. Hart, who was a longtime member of the, as Fire Tax Commissioner there in Township 7. You have the applicant of Daniel Hill. He's recommended to be appointed to fill the seat.
I'd like to table that. I'm
Okay.
having discussion with the fire department and Mr. Hill.
Okay.
So I'd like to table that till our next meeting.
All right, we're going to defer that. We've already taken care of the C1A. All right, you see there the terms expiring in April of 2022. Any more discussion on appointments? Hearing none, we will move to the county attorney's report. Mr. Eric Grady.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, good morning again. I have 2 items for your consideration today. Both involve county-owned property acquired through the tax foreclosure process. Both parcels are owned jointly with the city of New Bern. I will note The first is an initial offer on property located at 506 Darst Avenue, of course, in the city of New Bern, with a parcel ID number of 8-008-072. The offer is for $2,000. The past due taxes and the cost of foreclosure were $3,727.43. The tax value of the property is $4,000. And as with the properties that we own jointly with the municipality, the city of New Bern has already acted on this parcel to give it its initial blessing, so it is before the board this morning for the same. We would suggest to the board that you consider giving initial approval so we can put it through the upset bid process.
Chairman, so moved.
All right, we have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion on the motion? Motion is to adopt the resolution and authorize for upset bid process on partial number 8-008-072. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion passed.
The second and final item is a parcel that is in the exact same procedural status. We own it jointly with the city of New Bern. The parcel is located at 2602 New Bern Avenue with a parcel ID number of 8-037-066B as in boy. We've got an initial bid of $2,500. The original cost of foreclosure and past due taxes were $4,085.58, and the assessed value on the parcel was $5,000. As with the other parcel, the city of New Bern has already given this bid its initial approval, and I would suggest that the board consider doing the same this morning.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. That in the motion is to adopt the resolution authorized for upset bids. You heard the partial number there. Are there any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. All right.
That concludes my report.
What about C?
Oh, was there a C?
Yep.
I'm sorry. I do not have the C in my packet. Let me.
Before you go into C, there is a question I want to ask, and it is the purchase the real property at 1275 Temples Point Road. This is, I reckon, in the Harlow community.
Yes.
We have talked about plans, and I haven't talked to you about it, so something I thought about last night late as I was thinking about this. We have talked about possibilities of recreation down in Harlow community. I don't know this vicinity or what. I don't think the acreage is big enough in what I see here, but I just wanted to make sure that we're not going to sell something that the county might be able to use as a resource later on down the road. Do you have any knowledge of it, Mr. County Manager?
I don't think so, sir. I appreciate where you're coming from, and I hadn't thought about that. Just looking at it, and Mr. Hodges is at the door. I don't believe this location, Gene, is something you guys have looked at. Is that correct?
No, you're right. The acreage of it is rather small, and
Okay.
it is in close proximity to the residence of the gentleman that's putting in the bid.
Okay. All right. That's all I needed to know.
Can you give me an idea about where Trail 75 is located on Temple Road?
There's a map in the packet.
Yeah, there is a.
Can't tell by the map, really.
What's the gentleman's name? Something George?
Yeah, Everett George.
Everett
It's
George.
right beside Mr. Everett George's property.
Everett George's property.
Temple Road. I don't remember Everett George got any property on Temple.
Well, he don't. He's the one that I think is put in the bid for it, correct?
But we understand he owns the adjacent parcel.
property.
It is one of those little, and it's 0.2 some odd acres, so chances are the best use would be to an adjoining landowner would
Okay.
be.
We
my
just
assumption.
acquired it in December of 2021. It's something that
Okay.
we haven't had very long, Mr. Jean, but
That's right.
I believe you had gotten calls periodically from the homeowner checking in when we were.
He's been looking at this for a while, and this was one of the foreclosures that a previous attorney that we had under contract had for numerous years, and it just got through the process.
Okay. I didn't mean to interrupt the process, but before we got into it, I wanted to make sure. All right, so, Ms. County Attorney,
Yes, sir. The offer amount is $8,200. The property is located at 1275 Temples Point Road with a parcel ID number of 5-008-016. The cost of the foreclosure and the past due taxes were $12,228.46. And as Mr. Hodges noted, the county just incurred that expense like in December. It's been a tax foreclosure that has been lingering and was very recently finalized. The tax value is $15,000. If the board is inclined to accept this offer, we'll put it out through the upset bid process, and when that is concluded, we'll have it back before the board for final consideration.
all right, do I have a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion and a second from Commissioner Liner. Any discussion on the motion? And that is to adopt the resolution and authorize for upset bids, and you see the partial number there in Township 5. Any further discussion? Hear none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Thank you, sir.
Now, that concludes my report, I hope.
Mr. County Manager.
Mr. Chairman, you're going to hear a lot from me over the next several hours, so I'm going to withhold my comments till at the end of the work session.
Okay. Commissioners' reports. We begin with Commissioner McCabe.
I just have one item here. Yesterday at the Gwinnett Community Center there, I had 3 individuals from the health department, Amber, Crystal, and Jameson, from the health department come out to community center there, and we gave approximately 1,250 N95 masks to different individuals in my community, in our community. And we had over 100 cars came through nonstop. Nobody got out of the car to receive the N95 masks. And it was a good turnout. It was kind of chilly, but it was nice. We had a good crowd came by, and everybody enjoyed themselves. And I think we had about a little small 2 boxes left over. So those I already got rid of because people didn't come by there, and they called me up, and I issued those masks to them. So it was a good turnout, and I want to thank Scott Harris for his employees come out and help me in the event at the community center in the Harlow area. That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you, Commissioner McCabe. Commissioner Mark.
Yes. Well, I attended 2 meetings last week. One was the hospital, and I think we wanted to know that they have an operation on the aorta valve in people, in which they've had a lot of success. There's 2 doctors. One is a young lady and another is a gentleman. And it's getting to the point that it looks like instead of not only having a cancer center, we're looking forward to at some point building a heart center. So that was interesting. They were also in the involvement of recruiting a new president. UNC has offered to give us at no charge their recruiting department to get letters out to different organizations. That's about it, Danny. As far as the TDA, they are ahead of schedule this year. They're over what they had last year as far as money and renting out rooms. So that's good news. And that's about it.
Thank you, Commissioner Mark. Commissioner Smith.
Well, I participated in the Black History Parade on Saturday, and I felt was very successful. Victor Taylor, I think, set up the parade, and it was a pretty large parade, and the weather was great, and had a great time. And my sister saw my picture on Facebook, and I was shocked. Well, and I've also attended all my meetings this month, and all the committees seem to be doing well. The Smart Start and Juvenile Justice Committee, Prevention Committee, and everything seems to be moving along very well at this point.
Thank you, ma'am. Commissioner Liner.
Sir, I have nothing.
All right, Commissioner Mitchell.
A few things, sir, and thank you. One, beginning with Tech Bridge, Jeff Wood and I and Captain Wheeler from ECU have been asked to speak at the Defense Alliance of North Carolina at their annual Chairman's Luncheon on the 4th of March. So we will be taking Tech Bridge and making it visible on a much bigger stage. Good for Tech Bridge, good for Eastern North Carolina. I attended a Board of Trustees meetings for the community college, all good there. Also attended an all-day meeting for NC-MAC. Several things that came out of there. One, we did a resolution to the North Carolina General Assembly that is supporting changes to the licensure program for occupational specialties. The General Assembly directed that the licensing boards move up and expand and increase the speed of responses to applicants from military backgrounds or military families. But there is no question on any of the applications for licensure on the actual questionnaires. So they were directed to improve the responses to veterans and veterans' families, but they had no way to identify them. Sounds like a small thing, but it made all the difference in the world. The other thing is another resolution to expand the scope of the intergovernmental service agency agreements between DOD installations and municipalities and counties. This has been a big issue because they're getting ready to open the joint school on Seymour Johnson, but are now having to navigate the contracts over what does the base do and what does Wayne County do. So taking some action there. And the third one, and this is a big one, the annual Salute to Veterans Luncheon that will be held in Havelock on the 10th of May. The Secretary of DNVA, Lieutenant General Gaskins, will be the guest speaker. And that's all, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate what you do. All right, Mr. Vice Chair.
I have nothing today.
All right. Just a few comments. First, we had the Corsama board meeting this last week, and good meeting. Several things that were shared there. One is that, as you know, Corsama has funded litter pickup in addition to what the state is doing. And for the three counties which we represent of Craven, Pamlico, and Carteret counties, there's going to be about 300 miles of roads that are going to be picked up as a result of the investment from Corsama. It's about a $250,000 investment back into these pickups. So there's going to be more roadside pickups rather than just what North Carolina DOT is doing. So I think that's good. It shows, I think that Corsama is committed to trying to reduce trash on our roadways. We have had folks say that, you know, there's trash coming from the trucks, and I think this is one thing that we wanted to do to try to, you know, to show that we want to try to keep our roadways clean. So I commend the board for the investment there, and you probably will see some folks picking up trash here in the three counties in the next few weeks, may have already seen them, and so that is the investment from the Corsama, which is your landfill. Yes, sir.
One thing here. Saturday, I was coming from Highway 7 on Kempton Square. It is from Glen Burnie back west. It is so much trash you can only see the grass on both sides of the road. I don't know I don't know exactly how they got there, but someone needed to pick that trash up on Highway 7 on Kempton Square. It's terrible. It's so much trash. I mean, it's piles of trash.
We don't disagree with you, and
it's all over everywhere, but this is ridiculous.
I travel the 4-lane, you know, coming here to the meetings, and I
know you see it come from your area.
I saw it this morning. There's no question about it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
So, also, I just want to state, I commend our board members that sit on the Corsama board. They joined together and committed that we were not going to see an increase in the tipping fees for our landfill. So we're going to go into a budget this year that's going to be sort of revenue neutral, you know. That was something that our representatives committed to doing, and we appreciate all those that serve on that board and their commitment for doing that. And so I think trash is a big cost. There's no doubt about it. We know it from the local level, but our tipping fees should remain the same, and our fees to the citizens going into this next budget year will stay the same too. That was our commitment. The last thing that I just want to state, and I'm not going to solve it today, but you've heard me talk about it a lot. Internet.
Yes.
Folks, I've been to a lot of functions in the last few weeks around the rural part of our county, and I don't know what about recently, but internet service has just took a nosedive. It's just terrible. I'm having so many of our rural citizens that are coming to me and just complaining of no service. I haven't had internet now for close to a month. We've called and nobody's come, and I'm testing it out to see how long it's going to take, really. I was fortunate to go to Cove City Library, and we have checked out a hotspot, and we went back and nobody needed it, so we rechecked it out. And that's what I've been using to try to get county information on my home computer. Without it, we have no internet at our home. We're sort of at the end of the line, but I am just one of hundreds of citizens. You know, county manager, staff, Steve, Gene, they've been working on this and trying to find a realistic solution. Folks, I don't know what the answer is, but something's got to be done. Something's got to be done. So,
Jason,
yes.
sorry.
Yep.
Just pronounced about the internet. I am getting a lot of calls, emails. There's no internet session in the Adam Creek area of Harlow for years. So we definitely look into that and provide those people down there in that community with some good internet in the Adam Creek Harlow area. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Big concern, big concern. All right, any other comments from the Board of Commissioners? All right, Board, we do have a work session. We're going to take about a 15-minute recess so staff can get the room prepared. Do you have anything else before we recess for 15 minutes? Hearing none, we'll stand recess.
I don't think you probably saw the email I sent in the last
Mr. Stanley got y'all jumping this morning.
night later.